From MNT-EC, the Micro Nanotechnology Education Center, this is Talking Technicians, the podcast about technicians, who they are, what they do, and where they come from. I'm your host, Peter Kazarnoff. I teach technicians and engineers at Portland Community College. In each episode, you'll meet a working technician and hear their story. That means real interviews with real technicians about real jobs. At the end of each episode, you'll hear actions you can take if you want to be a technician too. In this episode, I'd like to welcome back Giovanna, Amalia, and Daniel. Amalia works at the Oakcrest Institute of Science in California, and Giovanna and Daniel work at Intel in the Portland region of Oregon. Amalia, Giovanna, and Daniel, welcome back to Talking Technicians.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us here.
Absolutely. So to start off, maybe we'll start with Amalia. Could you introduce yourself and talk about where you live and where you work?
Your introduction was so thorough. I'm Amalia. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I work at the Oakcrest Institute of Science, which is based out of Monrovia, California. They're not far apart. We are a nonprofit organization that does educational outreach as well as full grant-funded chemistry, biology, and environmental science research. So we do health research and environmental research. And we're kind of like a graduate lab, but we're not associated with any academic institution.
And Amalia, you went to a community college. Which community college did you go to?
I started out at Pasadena City College, and then I got my bachelor's at California State University, Los Angeles.
Great, thank you. Giovanna, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you live and work?
Hello, my name is Giovanna Silva. I live in Beaverton, Oregon, and I work at Intel here in Roland Acres as a manufacturing technician.
And you went to community college as well. Where did you go to community college?
Yes, I got my degree at PCC, Portland Community College.
Thank you. And last but not least, Daniel, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you live and work?
Yeah, hello, everybody. Name's Daniel Emilianov. I also work for Intel at Roland Acres. I am also a manufacturing technician. And then I also attended PCC Sylvania campus, and that's where I got my associates in mechanical engineering technology. I also live in the city of Hillsborough. Just recently bought a house there.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome all three of you back. You've been on a previous episode of the Talking Technicians podcast. So I'd like to know what you've been up to since we last spoke. Daniel, what have you been doing since you were on the podcast episode?
A lot of gardening and some landscaping work. So just getting my hands dirty, spending more time outside, which is a nice change of pace than what I used to be. So, and just kind of work. It's been more or less routine with COVID and just not being able to, travel around or some places close earlier than normal and just not being able to go and see the sites like you normally could. But for the most part, yeah, it's been just gardening and occasional reading, watching videos. I bought a bike recently, so I'll be doing a lot of pedaling. So, but that's kind of it.
And how long have you owned your home for now?
Let's see. It'll be exactly 1 year in August. So.
And it is gardening time in Portland, and it has been very hot recently. I'm in Portland, Oregon, too, and boy.
I've been scrambling the last couple of days, trying to get some netting, get some shade for the tomato plants and roses, just making sure none of it gets burned away under the heat wave. But hopefully after today, I think it's going to cool down quite a bit. So looking forward to it.
So Amalia, how about you? What have you been doing since we last spoke?
Well, we actually, for the first time in over a year, have some students back in the lab. We had a couple of students from Citrus College come through near the end of May. And they got to come through and actually get to do some lab work. And they've been part of a program that was virtual for the past 6 months or so. So they got vaccinated and we got them on our testing program. And so they were actually able to come in and do some real work in the lab. And now we've got a couple of more summer interns, one from Notre Dame and a couple more from Citrus that get to come through and get their hands dirty in the lab.
When you mentioned Citrus, what's Citrus?
That's Citrus Community College, which is I think it might be Duarte, but it's a neighboring city, so they don't have to come very far.
Great. And how about you, Giovanna? What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Not much. We're still working at the fab, like always, with the precautions, of course, and a lot of gardening, a lot trying to enjoy the sunshine as we can. But at least we have some sunshine. It's just too hot right now. It's going to get better.
And Giovanna, for those who don't work in the semiconductor industry, what is a fab? When you said you've been working in the fab?
Oh yeah, a factory. Sorry. Yeah. So as a technician in this semiconductor industry, we have to go to your workplace, and because our job is really hands-on on tools and other things. So we're still going to work as regularly, but of course with all the precautions and changes. But yeah, the same thing, just at work, I've been training more advanced content, and that's it.
So Giovanna, you mentioned how COVID has affected your work. Now that we're in the summer of 2021 and things are starting to reopen a little bit, how has that changed your work and changed your life, Giovanna?
I guess at campus, we have like less engineers, and we don't have a lot of meetings, and sometimes it's necessary. So I guess this will help a little bit to have more communication with things that maybe change or not. And also, like, it's good personally having a normal life back, going to places and enjoying going to the beach, enjoying going to a restaurant a little bit more, even like go out with your friends after work. Yeah, I guess.
How about you, Daniel? How have things changed at work and in your life with COVID, and now a little bit with COVID reopening in Oregon?
Well, a lot of it matches what Giovanna is saying as far as the fab. I think there's been a lot less like team builders, so we don't really get to hang out as a team together just because of all the social distancing policies in place. I think it'll be nice to see if policies will change and maybe we get some team builders back just to get to know some of the new people, new hires coming in, because until looks like we've started to bring people back on board now, so which is great. So if you're looking for work, I think we're hiring right now from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a team builder. What's a team builder? What does that mean?
So it's just from what I've briefly experienced before COVID hit, usually every quarter or so, I guess our shift leads, so our managers would allocate some funds from Intel, and basically we get together as a team and everybody kind of shares and get to know each other, which I think is really important, especially right now, just because people don't get to socialize as much, and I think a big part of becoming a better team is getting to know each other and being able to communicate and just kind of see what everyone's, into. If there's more hobbies, I mean, you got to make friends somehow, right? Especially in the work environment. So something that we look forward to, but we'll see. I think on Wednesday is when the state of Oregon opens. So it'll be interesting to see how Intel policy goes going forward.
Amalia, how's your work been? You mentioned that Oakcrest Institute of Science has a COVID testing protocol. How did your work change during COVID, and how is it changing right now?
Nearly right away, we got a testing program up and running. We got an IRB, which is the legal paperwork and all ability to do research projects on people. And we started testing us 3 days a week. So it served two purposes. It kept us safe because we would know if anybody became infected and could send them home. And we actually got long-term data on a microcosm of Los Angeles. It included both people who worked here, their families, and a little bit of extended households. So back in December and January, when we had the sweeping wave that came through in Los Angeles and all of California, the whole country really got really bad. Some of our testing did reflect that. So we were able to see, even in our small microcosm of testing, that the number of cases did go up. And for anybody who did become positive, we ended up doing daily testing instead of 3 days a week. So they were able to follow some of the infections all the way through from the very, very initial testing, even before symptoms, all the way through to the virus being almost completely gone and then being completely symptomless again. So we get some very unique data out of that, but it's also kept us really safe. So we've still been able to, I've been in the lab the entire time, which is, you can't really do what I do from home. You can't do bench chemistry from home really, and you can't do any of the instrumentation work. So most of the work itself kind of remained business as usual. The thing that was the most impacted was our outreach program, because we always had tons of students, especially through the summer. We'd have large groups of students come through from all different programs around the SoCal area. And we really couldn't do that. So we tried doing a couple of outdoor things, or we planned to, and then they always fell through. So we converted a lot of outreach stuff to being digital, Zoom, YouTube. We got a lot of our social media stuff up and running a lot better than it used to be. And we did a lot of virtual tours. So Zoom made it really possible to bring more people into the lab than we may have otherwise. We got a program going with LAUSD, the LA school system, where they would have up to 100 kids or more from different classes and different schools come into a Zoom session, and we do tours, we do talks talking about what we do as an organization. And in some ways, it helped us reach more people than we would have in a normal year. But we didn't have anybody in the lab. So it was sparse compared to a normal year.
So let's talk about the future next. Giovanna, what's coming up for you in the future, professionally or personally, that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, I just got a new trainee at Intel, so I'm going to train him what I do. So it's kind of exciting. It's the first time that I'm training someone. I'm getting advanced training also when I can to progress to a new job title, as Intel is transitioning our titles to manufacturing equipment technician. And personally, it's all normal. I just hope everything gets back and we can live our lives normally.
How about you, Daniel? Anything coming up in the future, professionally or personally, that you'd like to share?
So I'm continuing my upskill training, and upskill training is just adding more tools to the belt, learning how to do more hands-on things on the tools that I work at. And then I'll also be doing some training for a few of my teammates in my area. So that'll be exciting. Personally, I just finished putting together a sauna. So I'm trying to learn some of the electrical for it. I still got to connect the heater to it. So that's kind of what's happening in personal. And then long-term life, I want to lose some weight. Part of the reason I got the bicycle for. So those are kind of the things I'm working towards.
And Giovanna mentioned manufacturing equipment technician as one of the job titles at Intel. Daniel, can you explain just a little bit what are the Intel job titles that they use for technicians?
So the two that, well, I guess the three now that I'm most familiar with is manufacturing technician, which is what I was hired on as after PCC. And then the other one that I'm also aware of is the engineering technician, which is basically, I'd say almost there's different levels for manufacturing technicians. And I'd say an engineering technician is basically a level 3 technician on the pole. And now the new system that they're coming out with, which is the manufacturing equipment technician, or MET, it has a 5-level program. And then basically what they want to do is, I think they want to just combine the MT and the ET position, and then just have that leveling process where once you acquire certain skills that they set out for you to master, then you'll progress through those levels. And basically it's just an overall, I think everyone's going to be an MET, which is interesting because we're all kind of waiting for that to become the official change, and it looks like they're taking their time with it. So
we really don't know how it's gonna be.
yeah. I think they kind of let everybody know what's happening, and then now we're just kind of fitting in all the puzzle pieces to make it work.
And Amalia, how's your work been, and what do you think's coming up for you in the future? You mentioned that you're starting some more tours and getting new interns. How about for you personally? What changes are you anticipating coming up?
Well, we've got a couple of we've got a clinical trial actually that's wrapping up. So our sample processing is going to have to ramp up soon. We're going to be doing a lot more analysis. And we'll have more interns, so I'll probably be training people a lot more. They'll be back in the lab. Personally, I'm actually writing a novel. So that's what I've been doing in my spare time, and I'm about halfway through that. And we'll see where that takes me. That's kind of exciting. But other than that, it's going to be pretty much business as usual, just maybe a little bit more busy than usual.
So, Malia, when we did our podcast episode together, what was it like for you, and what advice would you give future podcast guests?
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy these, actually. As for advice, definitely read up on the questions first. I wouldn't say have like a rehearsed answer, but having some idea of how you would answer the questions helps a lot in the moment. Otherwise, you're tripping over your tongue constantly. And I'm a master of the ums. So every other word is But going over the questions a little bit beforehand really helps with that. It gives you kind of a direction for your answers ahead of time.
So a little look behind the curtain, Amalia. When you say questions, what do you mean? How they get shared? Where those come from?
Oh, the interview questions we get in either a Word document or a PDF, and so we just get to read through kind of, and it's not exactly what's asked in an interview. So there's some variation from it. So it is impromptu, but to have kind of an idea of what's going to be talked about and the kind of questions that you're going to be asked is really helpful.
Giovanna, my understanding was when you're on Talking Technicians the first time, that was your first podcast appearance. What was it like for you, and what advice would you give to future guests?
Yeah, I think definitely read the questions and prepare yourself. And I think if you are very extroverted, maybe you don't need to, but for me, I need it. I'm not gonna lie, that made me a little nervous. But I think it's really nice to maybe help someone out there that doesn't know if we're gonna get a degree or not, doesn't know what job can come with this degree. So for me, at least, getting this degree at PCC helped me so much. Like it really changed my life, and I never thought I would like get a job at Intel. So I guess if it's helpful for someone that's listening out there, I came from another country. That's also hard too. For me, it was really hard to find myself again. So I think if it's helpful for anyone, it's really worth it doing it.
Amalia mentioned that there were questions sent. Giovanna, before we recorded the episode, what else happened before we hit the record button?
Yeah, we kind of have a little preparation for, so it's kind of knowing how it's going to be. So if you're comfortable doing the interview and not get lost at your answers. And also a lot of emails before that, making sure that we know the time and, the content and everything else.
And Daniel, what was being on the podcast the first time like for you? And what would you say to future guests?
Well, it's a great experience, and I think everyone out there wants to share, what they've accomplished or what they've done or things that they want to do. And I think podcasts are a great way to do it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, I guess I'm a fan of them as well. So it was a great experience. I hope that it's relatable as well, and that people who are out there kind of on the fence deciding whether they ever want to participate in a podcast, or hopefully it inspires them to go to PCC or choose a career at Intel or wherever else they're going. But hopefully it inspires them to go out and just get things done. I think that's probably the most important thing, is just to go out there and just to start doing things.
And Amalia, after we recorded your episode, some editing was done to the audio, and then that audio got sent out for your review. Did you find that process helpful and make you a little more confident during the recording?
Yeah, I like most people, I don't really like listening to my own voice, but I was actually very impressed with how that interview came out and made me more confident for the next one. And the ability to have a say in the editing process and say, okay, no, that needs to get taken out. I didn't mean to say that, before it goes on the air, gives me a lot more comfort in just being able to talk and express myself. And if there's anything that later comes off as, no, that's probably not a good idea to say, then it's okay. You can take it out. It was a nice, smooth process.
And Giovanna, after we recorded your episode and the episode was posted, did you listen to it or share it with anyone?
I share with my husband. I listened to it a little bit, but I was I don't like to hear my voice too. And I was afraid that I said something wrong. But yeah, I share my family, listen to it too. Yeah, it was really nice.
And how about you, Daniel? Did you share the episode with anybody? Did you listen to it after the episode was posted?
Initially, I shared it for myself, just to make sure I sounded good. And I think I did. And then, of course, my family, just mom and dad, and my grandmother. And then I'm still in touch with, Allison and Tabitha. And I'd actually recommend them coming on here as well, if they get a chance to. But it'll be, I enjoyed it a lot. And it's awesome just to kind of be like, really, is that really what I said? And it's like, there it is. The proof's right there. So
Allison and Tabitha were two of your classmates when you're in the technician training program, right?
Yep, correct. I think Tabitha's doing some pretty amazing stuff, so I definitely recommend, if you can get a hold of her, I would. She's been sharing some of the things she's been doing. She's out in Florida right now, and they're doing, she's on I think she's working for an engineering firm that does some of the SpaceX and NASA stuff. So it's pretty amazing, some of the stuff that she's doing. And honestly, it's mind blowing that I went to school with someone who's, launching helping launch rockets into space now, which is just mind-blowing to me.
So to finish up for today, Daniel, you mentioned that Intel is currently in a hiring mode. Do you have a final call to action for students or people out there who are looking to change careers and become a technician?
I think the biggest advice I would have is find someone that can look over your resume and can, sit down with you and listen to, what you've accomplished and share, and just make sure you have an updated resume. Try to, when you're applying for work, try to match, what they're looking for in the job proposal into your resume. And that way, the two kind of go hand in hand. It'll help you stand out. And I mean, again, biggest advice, just do it. You have to put yourself out there. That's one thing, is to jump out of your comfort zone sometimes and take a risk. I never thought I'd end up working for Intel, but here I am, 2 years down the road. And I mean, I love it. I took a risk, and so far it's paying off. So I'd say sometimes you just put yourself out there, take a chance, do it. And if it doesn't work out, do it again. Just learn from it and just keep doing. Go forward.
Giovanna, you mentioned that you're now training someone. What would be your final call to action if people want to be one of those trainees?
Yeah, I guess like Daniel said, just put yourself out there. I when I did my interview at Intel, I was not hoping to work there at all. And so I got the job. I don't know how. so it's put yourself out there. Prepare yourself, of course, your resume and people that can help you too. I can help if you contact me too. And yeah, I guess it's kind of exciting moment as the semiconductor industry in general has like a high demand for chips for everything, cars, fridges, everything. So I guess as technicians, it's kind of a good moment that I believe if the economy comes back and things will be back to normal and they could hire more people, have more people inside. So I guess it's a good moment for us as technicians and to get a job as technicians. But yeah, just put yourself out there and prepare yourself. A lot of things are not necessarily technical in an interview. It's also about yourself, about how you handle stressful situations, how you can deal with a fast-paced environment. So it's not just technical and would be so hard. So yeah, just put yourself out there and try again if it doesn't work.
And Amalia, do you have a final call to action? You mentioned that new interns are coming into Oakcrest. If people wanted to be one of those interns or work at Oakcrest, what would you suggest they do?
I would say get in contact with a community college, even if you're not going to be going there, or if you don't have the ambition to go on to get a 4-year degree. Community colleges are an excellent place to start. There's tons of certificate programs and all kinds of different stuff. Pasadena City College, my PCC, has a biotech program that a lot of people who've come to Oakcrest have come through. I think at least 3 of the employees have experienced through their biotech training program. And the biotech industry is kind of exploding right now. So if you're interested in lab work, that's one place you can go without having to go all the way through for a Bachelor of Science or all the way to get a PhD. You can still do lab work with just a biotech certification. And there's really not enough people doing that right now. So the biotech industry, like we've got Amgen out here, pharmaceutical companies, makeup companies, they're all snapping up anybody with biotech experience super fast. And it's not hard work. It's just you need the experience and the detailed understanding of what you need to do. So find a program at a local community college, get the necessary skills built up, and then start querying. A lot of those programs also will give you a pipeline into industry jobs if you want one. They usually have connections. Like for us, I mean, we're not industry, we're a small research lab, but nearly everybody, every one of the interns who comes through is either from Pasadena City College or Citrus College, because we have direct connections to those colleges. So they send people our way, anybody who needs the lab experience.
All of the three things that you've said are just great advice. And I hope that people listening out there can take some of that and become successful in their jobs, just like all three of you. So Amalia, Giovanna, and Daniel, thank you so much for being on Talking Technicians again.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Take care.
Thank you for having us. This was really fun.
Talking Technicians is produced by MNT-EC, the Micro Nano Technology Education Center, through financial support from the National Science Foundation's Advanced Technological Education Grant Program. Opinions expressed on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the National Science Foundation. Join the conversation. If you are a working technician or know someone who is, reach out to us at info@talkingtechnicians.org. We're always looking out for great guests to share more stories with you.